Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Ruby Rogues podcast. This week on our panel, we have Luke Stutters.
Hello.
I'm Charles Max Wood from Top End Devs, and we have a special guest, and that is...
Hello. My name is Evgeniy. I'm principal engineer at Toptal.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've seen ads for Toptal, and they've reached out to me a couple times about stuff. Don't you wish that Rails came with a component library that would plug in the widgets, charts, graphs, and other things you need to build a solid user interface? And wouldn't it be even better if it looked great and was easy to integrate? Well, I have great news, folks. I found it. Avo provides all these things along with authentication, advanced search, menu editors, grid views, and a ton more. Plus, there's an open source version that gives a ton of stuff for free. Just go to avo.cool, that's avo.cool, to see what they offer and give it a try. I'm so excited to have an option that works out of the box, doing more than the basic CRUD operations, and I'm thrilled that I don't have to buy an admin theme and then convert their stuff to Rails views. This is built for Rails by a Rails developer, and it's awesome. Go check it out at avo.cool. Do you want to just tell people a little bit more about who you are, what you do, why they might know who you are, things like that?
Yeah, sure. So, as I just said, I'm Evgeniy. I'm from West Russia, Kaliningrad. I'm a software engineer, mostly practicing Ruby for more than 6 years right now. And I'm working at Toptal for 4 years. Started as a backend engineer, then promoted to a senior one, and a little bit less than a year became a principal engineer.
Very cool. And we brought you on today to talk about N+1 queries, right?
Yeah, sure. One of my favorite topics.
I know, right? Well, and it's funny because when we talk about N+1 queries, usually people go, oh, yeah, I know, eager loading, blah, blah, blah. But your article had a little more stuff to it than just that. And so I thought it might be good to kind of bring it up. That, and sometimes newer developers haven't been exposed to the idea. So,
yeah, could we just ask what is an N+1 query?
Yeah, sure. Putting it simple is one of those issues when you are loading your data inefficiently, when you actually can do it much better way.
Mm-hmm.
So for an instance, you have an object, a group of objects, and you want to load some of the information for each of them. And instead of doing that one after another, you do it in batches. And some people may think that N+1 is only related to database querying, but actually it's not, right? It's a general problem that can be applied to any situation. For example, querying third-party service.
Yeah. Can you have like N+1+1 queries where it's like, you have the book, and then you have the author, and then you have the author's comments, and then you have the comments replies, right? And N+1 all the way down, and have like N+1+1+1?
Yeah, exactly. And this is when the issue actually is happening, especially in ActiveRecord default ORM of Rails, because you might think that you get down some of those and you're in a good shape. But actually, doing follow-ups on your features and etc., you are introducing more, and you may just not notice them until it's like too late or your performance is really, really low.
Right. So
if you've got an N+2 query, then the more things you have on the page, the longer and longer it takes to load, right?
Exactly.
So now the way I spot N+3 queries is that I usually have the browser diagnostics open, like the Chrome debug tool down the bottom, and I look at the page load times and stuff loads of data in, and then I see the milliseconds creeping up, and I think, oh dear, I've got an N+4 query. So how do you spot N+5 queries?
I'm a little bit confused why for every sequential example.
I'm making a terrible programming joke, actually.
He's trying to be funny.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So I'm mostly I'm mostly doing a backend job, but of course you might notice some N+1 issues on your front end applications when you are doing some unnecessary querying to your servers. But on the back end, you usually use some tools like, if we are speaking about Ruby, right? So like Bullet, any other as such to find those. Not all of them that efficient and might still miss some of them. So yeah, for that, what you basically do, you wrap your queries with good tests. and then you control over N+1. You have some control over it.
Gotcha. So I think
them in the Rails console, can't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, we can use Rails console to debug, to spot some of N+1s?
That's when I see them, when I got the console open and you see the queries, spinning past in multicolor. Then once you get into it, you can just kind of eyeball them and spot them as they come through.
You might, in some cases, in some simple cases, but unfortunately, in reality, it's much harder because you actually N+1s are being triggered very low down, deep into the stack. So, for example, that you loaded some users, and then you are doing like rendering many views or doing some other querying on the API side, and everything is okay. But under the some condition, if the user, for example, is an admin, you also want to preload additional information for them. And that's when N+1 is happening. And to repeat the same actions in your console, it might be tricky, right? The stack is just too long, too deep.
Right.
Yep, that makes sense. So how do you track those down? How do you track those tricky ones down? Because I agree with Luke, like most of the time, if I have an N+1 query and I'm watching the log, kind of float past while I'm running my server, if I hit the action or, do the ActiveRecord thing that triggers it right, I'll see it query for the parent object, and then I'll see it query for each of the child objects, and I'll go, oh, that's not what I want, and then I'll go fix it. But in other instances, yeah, if it's separated from that parent object query, or it has other stuff that's interspersed in the middle of it, it may not be as simple to see. And so in that case, yeah, how do I start finding those?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is no gold solution for any of those cases.
All right, episode over. I quit.
Yeah. What my advice would be is to, first of all, use some generic tools like one I already mentioned is Bullet to spot one of those. And next, what you do, you cover your cases, your services that loads data, service objects, or whatever way you do. If it's REST API, you cover your API endpoints with tests to check that there is an expected amount of queries you do to the database, and those queries are actually those that you expect. And in this case, it's also not that simple because you need to make sure that your test environment fulfilled properly, because you might say that 2 users is enough to find if there is an N+1. But actually, as I just said, you might have some specific conditions to load even more data. So you need to know what actually you will be doing in your endpoint. So you need to understand that. So your test should be fulfilled with the data to trespass the full tree, like from top to the very bottom. And this might be tricky because sometimes, especially if we're talking, for example, about GraphQL API, you need to pre-create a lot of information to make sure that there is no N+1.
Right. Now I'm going to admit to being a bit lazy. I usually don't go looking for N+1 queries until I have a benchmark on something that says, this is taking way too long to load, right? Yeah. I probably should proactively put Bullet or something in and see what it catches and fix those as I go. But most of the time, I'll put in New Relic or Raygun or something like that. Raygun's a sponsor on some of the shows, by the way. But, I'll put it in, I'll let them run their performance thing, right? And then probably once every month or two, if it's an app that I maintain for myself, I'll go and I'll look and I'll see, okay, what are the slowest things that are getting hit here? And then I'll go in and I'll clean them up and try and get everything to be under, 200 or 500 milliseconds, depending on, how many of them there are and what the problems are.
Yeah, I think that most people do the same because we are working with the great language, at least in my opinion. And this language encourages us to be like agile, to develop quickly, develop new features quickly. I think that there's also an option to rather spending your time on building something which is the final and the most quality solution. But what you do, you basically give it away as soon as possible, and then you improve it along the way. But gladly, there are some tools that you may use to stop worry about some of the simplest N+1 cases. What I'm talking about is with ActiveRecord, for example, you need to remember that you put required includes on your query to know that there will be no N+1 on simple associations, right? So if you want to avoid that, to remembering that what includes you already have and what you are missing right now, you can use tools such as AR lazy preload, or and that one I just spotted recently, Goldie Loader. Those are the same tools that actually what they do is they keep the context for the loaded record of all the siblings when that record was loaded. And when you will try to load the association on this record, it will actually preload the same association for all the siblings. And what's great about that, it will do this lazily. So just think about it. Yeah. So imagine that you don't need to put includes anymore, right? And which for me, at least, feels natural, right? Or why would you even remember about this if you just want to proceed with your data? You want to, for every user, you want to reload their posts. So why would you say that I want user includes posts? I just want my posts, and ActiveRecord can do the rest. And these gems, they are exactly for this. You don't need to worry about includes anymore. And they will do this lazily, which ActiveRecord by default does not. And this is another issue, by the way. So yeah, I'm encourage everyone to try it out and see how well it works.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to try it out. Are there any other tricks? I mean, yeah, I like the kind of lazy load. Don't worry so much about this kind of thing. Are there other tips that you have that I can use to short circuit some of this stuff?
Yeah, so if we want to, I can introduce the gem that I just involved N+1 loader. So if you would look at what we have now in ActiveRecord ecosystem, is that you have those associations that some people not like very much, and I can understand that because they bound different domains, different contexts, and you have this dependency user on posts and etc. Sometimes you just don't want to have it, but in my opinion, like, this is ActiveRecord way of doing things, and you just accept it or switch to another ORM or even another database, non-relational, for example. And if you keep having this mindset that, okay, I'm fine to have as many associations as I want, and with the benefits of the AR lazy preload or Goldie Loader, you might say that, okay, I don't need to worry about N+1, basically any moment, right? If I want to have the posts which were like having certain score, like the most scored posts, I can have another association scored post with a default scope on it. And then I'll again have no N+1 on this. But sometimes there are still cases when it's just not enough when ActiveRecord does not provide a way for you to create association that you can preload. For example, right now, there is no way to preload associations with arguments. You basically cannot, and it will fail. I mean, that's understandable because ActiveRecord cannot pass all this stuff that you are passing to it to every object you want to preload to those queries. For example, what if you want to preload posts that were created from a certain point of time? You can initialize the association that accepts an argument and pass this argument actually to the var scope. But unfortunately, you won't be able to say, okay, I want user includes posts under a certain period of time. It will just fail and say that argumentable associations cannot be preloaded. This is one the case. Another case could be that, imagine you have a third-party service, such as, I don't know, your billing service, and you want to load payments for your users. So one way you can do that is to have some certain middleware, some service that accept a list of users, and you do requests per every user or whatever. And another, which you might consider, is to do all at once with batching, if your service support batching, of course. And right now, ActiveRecord doesn't have a way to create such kind of associations, right? Basically, all the associations, they are table related. They have more features on it, like you can use joins, etc. But sometimes you want to have simple, just a simple
Right.
that. For example, if you want to load posts number, so just number, how many posts the user have, you cannot create association for that. And you don't want to load all the posts to know the number, how many posts you
Right.
have. Yeah, what you can have, of course, you can use counter cache or from counter culture, the gem, this feature. But this is just another solution for the same issue.
Right.
And maybe you also want to avoid that. So for those cases, the N1 loader was invented when it's just not enough for you to create association that you want to preload efficiently without N+1. And it works perfectly. We are already using this in production. And as it says, so far so good.
I have a question about the DSL for N1 loader. It's got some interesting stuff going on there. It looks like it works by defining a method on the ActiveRecord class, the kind of class you're using, like user, correct?
Yeah. For example, it actually supports anything. Like you can inject it to ActiveRecord, and it has some nice features with that, such as supporting includes. But you can also use it with Poro, simple Ruby classes, right?
Right. So this kind of cute thing where it goes argument from argument to an example to define the arguments. Do you know, I haven't seen that before. Was that inspired by something else?
I would say that the whole jam and everything it supports right now was inspired by some of the challenges that we had. And that is one of those, is that when we want to have such kind of association that we want to preload efficiently and also send some arguments to that. So, for example, as I said, we are using GraphQL API. We are having it. And for our case, it was like someday association with, for example, payments. And we want to have payments within the certain period of time. And for that, the client front end sends those arguments to the server from and to, and we just simply bypass it to N1 border association, and it returns it perfectly without N+1.
Hey folks, this is Charles Max Wood from Top End Devs, and lately I've been working on actually building out Top End Devs. If you're interested, you can go to topenddevs.com/podcast, and you can actually hear a little bit more about my story about why I'm doing what I'm doing with Top End Devs, why I changed it from devchat.tv to Top End Devs. But what I really want to get into is that I have decided that I'm going to build the platform that I always wished I had with devchat.tv, and I renamed it to Top End Devs because I want to give you the resources that are going to help you to build the career that you want, right? So whether you want to be an influencer in tech, whether you want to go and just max out your salary and then go live a lifestyle with your family, your friends, or just traveling the world or whatever, I want to give you the resources that are going to help you do that. We're going to have career and leadership resources in there, and we're going to be giving you content on a regular basis to help you level up and max out your career. So go check it out at topenddevs.com. If you sign up before my birthday, that's December 14th. If you sign up before my birthday, you can get 50% off the lifetime of your subscription. Once again, that's topenddevs.com.
So this is something I often run into. One of the nice things in the way N1 Loader works is because it defines these methods on the user class, then you can use it to tidy up your views. And instead of having kind of long, complex queries in the view, you instead have a kind of tight, optimized query that's predefined on the model. I use that a lot. I really like doing that. Is that kind of part of a general push at Toptal to kind of take this kind of complex queries out of the views?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a good point. So as I was explaining before, with ActiveRecord way of doing this association coupling, if we keep this in mind, that this is okay to do, why would, for some of the cases, we invent like view models or whatever to efficiently preload our data for the views or for any kind of API, when we actually can have those associations within our ActiveRecord models so that we can use it in any place we want. We can use them in background jobs. We can use them in views. We can use them in APIs. And we don't need to keep all these third-party classes to provide this data efficiently.
I much prefer this approach to adding an additional class. I must admit, I much prefer kind of putting more stuff into the model. You mentioned GraphQL and the need to optimize dynamic queries. So with GraphQL, I suppose you don't know what queries are coming in, right? So was this what kind of drove your development of the N1 loader gem?
Yep.
I'm somewhat torn between the approach in the examples for N1 Loader, where you basically build your own optimized query, right? So you kind of got 10, 12 lines of code, really make it really slick. And then on the other hand, you've got the AR lazy preload, which kind of take care of it all for you. So when is that kind of handoff point? When do you start saying, do you know what, a lazy load is not enough? We need to go in, we need to make our own optimized kind of method on the user class.
Sorry, are you comparing the loaders that GraphQL encouraged to use with N1 loader? Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, what I don't personally dislike with what I don't like about GraphQL loaders is that they are using promises under the hood, and promises are hard to debug. And so, yeah, and they are just heavier that what you need. So you simply need your data. You don't want to have this overhead. And also for the GraphQL loaders, you can't use them in your background job, for example. You can use that, right? But that would be weird that your GraphQL API like logic functionality leaked to the background jobs. So if you want to avoid that,
right.
Yeah. And if you want to avoid that and at the same time have a benefit of loading everything efficiently, default ActiveRecord associations plus AR lazy preload plus N1 loader for specific cases solves everything for good.
So is this something that you're using in your apps, this N1 loader gem?
Yeah, we do.
And what kind of a difference is it making for you? I mean, do you have like before and after performance or other metrics that you use to evaluate how effective it is?
We did not compare the speed yet, which sounds weird, right? But at the same time, we are completely sure that we don't have any N+1s. I also think that the performance is actually better now because we don't have this overhead with promises and etc. It's a simple method. But what I can say for you for sure is that the satisfaction and overall experience of engineers working with such simple N1 loaders is better than working with GraphQL loaders.
Cool. So what's coming next with this? Is this kind of a finished project for you? And you wrote the gem, right?
Yeah, I did.
So is it done, or you're just going to upgrade it when Rails upgrades, or what's the plan going forward with this gem?
I don't have any plans right now. Of course, I will do my best to support all the upcoming ActiveRecord versions.
Right.
I also have planned to add integration with Goldie Loader. I did not yet do it. And yeah, I think that the gem can expand its functionality on demand. So far, I think it does a lot of stuff, and I don't see anything that is needed right now. But any request is always welcome.
Makes sense. Luke, do you have any other questions? I think I've pretty much exhausted what I wanted to know.
There is a method that's used in the N1 loader gem called fulfill, which is in the second example. And I've had a look through the source code to see what it's doing. But I just wondered what the thinking was behind the fulfill method.
Yeah, so the fulfill method is a simple API to mark the data as loaded, as well as assign this data to a certain object. So before that, the one of the first versions of the gem, it was the method was expecting to return some certain structure like hash, where the keys were the object IDs or whatever, some object identifiers, and values were the data that you want to assign to. But then this structure wasn't that easy to maintain, easy to have. And I just extracted this assignment logic to its own method. So now it's simpler, basically like that. And if you what's another benefit is if you just forget to use fulfill, or you don't provide the data for all of the objects. For example, you fulfill with wrong condition or whatever, then the loader will raise an error for you. So you don't have any real issues in production. You will know this. You will know that you missed some data proactively.
I'm a big fan of alternative database stacks for Ruby. I started off on Data Mapper back in the day, moved to ROM, and I'm currently rewriting my stuff using the SQL gem. Have you looked at any of those kind of alternatives to ActiveRecord?
Yeah, I had some experience in the past with the SQL. I think that the gem can have some integration with those ORMs. I didn't look yet if it's actually needed for those. Maybe they have actually a better functionality or different mindset than ActiveRecord. So maybe it's not really needed. But if there is a place for N1 loader for such frameworks, yeah, I'm up to have it.
It's very much different mindset. I might be speaking out of turn here, but the vibe I get from the SQL users is it's kind of edging towards that PHP, writing your own handcrafted queries kind of thing. And a nice thing about the N1 loader is, instead of doing that, instead of kind of getting into the weeds with the SQL, then you can just drop in an optimized query where you need it. So I really like that.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Can we talk about Reddit?
Sure.
I hate Reddit. I can't stand Reddit. I'm anti-Reddit. But Rails Reddit is a useful resource. There's no question about it. I always go, whenever I go there for the Reddit Ruby and the Rails Reddit, I always pick up interesting stuff. And I was interested to see that you'd posted a kind of really good intro to the gems on Reddit. How do you feel about Reddit?
I mean, I don't personally check the articles here. Unfortunately, I don't have much free time to do so. But I kind of feel that Reddit is a good place to spread the word about what you have done for the open source. So that's what I did. And what I really liked about it, that people on Reddit shared some good and honest feedback about my articles and about the gem itself that helped me to improve it and to improve the second and third articles about the gem. So because initially people were very confused what the gem does, why we need it, how it's different from the bullet or from anything else. So that's helped me to understand how bad my initial article was about N1 loader. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know people like Peter Solniker have started doing some YouTube series on Rails bits and pieces and kind of moving into this format. And I do find it easier, if I really want to go through something, I think YouTube screen share is a great resource for digging into stuff. Have you considered doing YouTube videos about your open source work?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I have not yet. I'm also not sure how the format would look like. Should I be like with my face on? Yeah, but maybe someday, right? You never know.
Yeah, I will. I started out kind of doing that. Don't sweat that. Just put it out.
I'm currently trying to work out, Chuck, how to do a Ruby TikTok. I mean, I haven't. It's a real challenge.
What do you mean?
I mean,
you trying to show code, or you just trying to?
Yeah, the format's so short. It's absolutely tight to get stuff across. I don't know if anyone's doing it yet, but I can't stop thinking about it.
We should talk because I'm working on that right now too, but off the show. Or maybe we should have the conversation on the show. I don't know.
I have a feeling I need to point at floating words above my left shoulder and pull a funny face and then do a dance. I think that's how TikTok works.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, it sounds like we've kind of devolved to the point where we ought to do some picks. Hi, this is Charles Max Wood from Top End Devs, and lately I've been coaching some people on starting some podcasts and in some cases just taking their career to the next level. Whether you're beginner going to intermediate going to advanced, whether you're trying to get noticed in the community or go freelance, I've been helping these folks figure out how to get in front of people, how to build relationships, and how to build their careers and max out and just go to the next level. So if you're interested in talking to me and having me help you go to the next level, go to topenddevs.com/coaching. I will give you a 1-hour free session where we can figure out what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, and figure out what the next steps are. And then from there, we can figure out how to get you to the place you want to go. So once again, that's topenddevs.com/coaching. So lately, things have just been a little bit crazy up in the air. I was at PodFest this weekend, and so I'm going to pick that PodFest. Of course, it's a little late now because it's over, but podcasting conference, it was in Orlando at the Orlando Hilton. It was awesome. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm going to shout out about that because there were some terrific talks, met some great people, had a really, really good time. So I'm going to pick that. For board games, I should have started with board games, but I didn't. So board games, the game we've been playing lately is Legendary, and I've picked that in the past. So I'm just going to pick one of the Legendary expansions and then talk about why I like that. And when I bring up the expansions, I just want to also make sure that people understand they kind of print them when they print them. So sometimes they're a little bit hard to get the ones that you want, right? So, you have to kind of check back periodically on Amazon to see if they have it. Some of them, they're really good about keeping in stock, that or they're not good at selling them, I guess. And some of them, they just don't have. So anyway, I'm just going to put it out there. One of my favorite expansions is the Guardians of the Galaxy expansion, which is funny because of all the Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy aren't my favorite. I mean, I enjoyed them, but yeah, not my absolute top end favorite movies. But the Guardians of the Galaxy Legendary expansion is super duper fun. And some of the power-ups that you get off of some of the heroes are really nice. The other thing I like about it is that some of the characters stack together really well. And so it makes that a lot more fun too. I've got to pull up the Board Game Geek so I can tell you the weight. The weight is 2.46. I can't remember what it is for Legendary, but I think it's about that. Some of the expansions are a little bit more complicated. They're going to get up around 3, but this one's not. So anyway, I'm going to pick it. Super fun. Super, super fun. And it looks like it's selling for about $26 on Amazon. So yeah, there you go. And then other picks. So one other pick that I have. So I'm running for school board here in Utah, not state school board, just the local school board. And one of the things that I did was I ordered a whole bunch of flyers, and I ordered them off of Vistaprint, and it turned out to not be terribly expensive. So I'm going to pick Vistaprint for that option. And then the other thing I'm doing in the parade is I'm actually handing out popsicles, like Otter Pops. I realize that neither of you are in the U.S., so you may not even have Otter Pops where you're at. I don't know if they sell them internationally or not. But they're the popsicles in a plastic. They're the popsicles in a plastic sleeve that you cut the top off and then push the popsicle up. And so anyway, I went down to California. Yeah. So anyway, you can look them up. They're super cheap. And yeah, we're going to be handing those out during the parade because the parade's going to be in the later morning on a Saturday in June. So it's going to be warm. And so, yeah, we're going to be doing that. I also found out at a meet and greet last night that one of the other school board members, she's running right now, but nobody's running against her. She actually does the same thing every year. So somehow we came up with the same idea. But yeah, going to definitely be doing that work. So anyway, I got them at Winco, and I got a killer deal on them. So I'm going to pick Winco as well. Winco's a grocery store chain, and they tend to have pretty good deals on a lot of the stuff they sell. So anyway, those are my picks, and enough of those. Luke, did you find your pick?
I did. So I'm doing a lot of Postgres at the moment, and I noticed on the Ruby Weekly there's a Postgres copy gem that just came out. I've been working on this project. It's been a total nightmare. And we've got international payment gateways, and it's kind of lots of money flying around. And oh my word, the amount of Postgres I've had to do. We had to change servers. I don't know if you've ever done that, Chuck, but you've got the kind of midnight tonight server redeploy. I'm sure you live in a world where everything's Dockerized and stuff, but us dinosaurs, are still in there clicking on DNS records. So any extra Postgres support in Ruby is fantastic. My second pick, which is not a technical pick, is the Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix, which is kind of a cathartic pick. because of the amount of time I spent with real lawyers this week. So it's a bit of a busman's holiday, but a welcome escape from the real lawyers.
Cool.
This is an old movie, right? With McConaughey, right?
It was, and now Netflix have created a series based on the idea.
Oh, I see that. Okay, awesome. I think that during the well-known trial of Depp versus Heard, right, the lawyers are on kind of hype right now.
Right, that's probably it. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about the Johnny Depp trial because I don't know if the verdict's come out yet, but
it has.
It's one of those. It's actually become one of my programming background noises. I know most people listen to music when they code, but I tend to have a kind of like a YouTube playlist of people chuntering on while I code, and it's been a lot of development that's been done to the sound of the judge in the Heard Depp case.
Yeah, that's funny.
I could care less what happens in the Heard Depp case. So I keep hearing snatches about how awful she is, and well, he's no saint either, and whatever. Let me tell you how much that really affects my life. The verdict came out, and apparently they awarded Johnny Depp $15 million. But they also found that he had defamed her and awarded her $2 million. So I guess their checks will cross in the mail.
That's nice. It's something for everyone.
Yeah. So, Amber Heard came out and put out how disappointed she was, and he put out how he wanted to get his story out. And that's all I really know about it, other than that I guess they were jerks to each other. So, yeah, but interesting. All right. And finally, we have our guest, whose name I still am going to not try and destroy. I'm sorry.
You can. I'm pretty sure you'll be good at it. It's Evgeniy.
Evgeniy. Oh,
yeah, nice.
I just have to write down, my way of spelling it, I guess. But anyway, go ahead, Evgeniy.
Yes. Some people try to say it like Evgeniy, but it's a transliteration of my real name, so it's more like Evgeniy. Yes, so I wanted to say that how happy I am working at Toptal, and I want to invite you to join me on this journey to make our greatest talent and company in the world to be even greater. We have a lot of space, and we want all of the stars of Ruby world to join us. We already have some, like Bajidar Batsov, the owner of Rubacop, and many more. Yeah, and for the second pick, I wanted to share that for those who didn't try it yet, the Telltale's games, such as The Wolf Among Us or the Walking Dead series, I truly encourage you to try it, because those are amazing, especially the first episode of the Walking Dead. It's very dramatic and exciting. But I actually played all of those, even Batman series and etc. It's really nice. You don't need to do all this hard action stuff. You just watch a great TV, being part of it a little bit, and just enjoying the show.
I don't want to besmirch Telltale Games there, but Evgeniy, do you ever look at like these games and think, man, this is so easy to code? I wish I was coding this stuff, because it's just so straightforward. Like the content's the hard bit, right? But the scripting is like, it's such a gift.
Yeah, my son wants to be a video game programmer, so we'll see. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. One question, Evgeniy, before you take off, where do people find you online? Are you on Twitter, or GitHub, or Instagram?Maybe you're doing TikTok videos like Luke wants to.
No, I don't do any TikTok, even for personal life. But I'm only, I think I'm on LinkedIn and GitHub profile, and I have email. I'm not that social media, at least yet, but I think I'll get to this point someday.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up then. And if you give us those links, we will put them in the show notes. And until next time, folks, max out. Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.